The world knows Cyndi Lauper as the queen of eccentric hair, flamboyant fashion, and an unmistakable voice that defined a generation. At 72, she stands as an icon, a woman whose songs have become anthems of joy, rebellion, and independence. But behind that sparkling persona lies a story few have ever glimpsed. A story that shadows her laughter with moments of profound heartbreak. Cyndi Lauper's life has always been public, yet intimately private. Every high note she hit, every red carpet appearance, every colorful stage costume masked a struggle the cameras could never capture. From the very beginning, her journey was never meant to be easy. Her brilliance came at a price paid in isolation, self-doubt, and the quiet battles that no audience could see. Even as the world cheered, her heart carried wounds invisible to the crowd. The songs that defined her career, "Girls Just Want to Have Fun," "Time After Time," were more than melodies. They were coded messages, whispered confessions of an inner life marked by challenges, family struggles, and moments of loss. Few remember that Cyndi grew up feeling like an outsider. Dreams of stardom collided with financial hardship, fractured relationships, and a world that often dismissed her as too different, too loud, too unconventional. She had to fight to be seen, fight to be heard, and fight to survive in an industry that demanded she conform, but she refused. Every eccentric outfit, every dramatic performance, every electrifying note was a defiance against a life that tried to limit her. By the time the world embraced her, Cyndi had already weathered storms the spotlight could never reveal, personal tragedies, moments of betrayal, and times when she questioned her own talent shaped her in ways that fame could never erase. And yet, she endured. She thrived. She became more than just a pop star. She became a symbol of resilience and individuality, a testament to the strength required to live authentically in a world that often punishes difference. But even now, at 72, there are secrets the world has yet to see. Decisions made in desperation, sacrifices taken to protect those she loved, and heartaches that shaped not just her music, but the woman herself. What happened behind the glittering lights? When no one was watching, what did Cyndi endure that her millions of fans never knew? Her life, like her music, is full of contradictions, joy and sorrow, triumph and loneliness, love and loss. The laughter the world remembers, so vividly often concealed tears that only she truly understood. And it is in those hidden moments that the real story of Cyndi Lauper emerges. Story far more complex, far more human, and far more heartbreaking than anyone ever imagined. Tonight we peel back the layers. We reveal the truths she carried in silence, the sacrifices she made in obscurity, and the resilience that allowed her to not just survive, but to shine brilliantly for decades. This is the untold story. The story that begins where the spotlight ends. And as we uncover it, you will come to see Cyndi Lauper, not just the icon, not just the voice, not just the legend, but the woman behind it all. Brave, vulnerable, and profoundly human. The journey into her hidden life begins now. To the world, Cyndi Lauper was, and still is, larger than life. A whirlwind of color, energy, and unapologetic individuality. From the first time she stepped onto the stage, she was impossible to ignore. Bright hair, outrageous outfits, and a voice that pierced through every expectation. She became a living symbol of rebellion against conformity. In the 1980s, when pop music often rewarded image over authenticity, Cyndi became a paradox. She was both the ultimate spectacle and profoundly real. The public adored her eccentricity. She was a pioneer of fun, a heroine for misfits, a voice that shouted, "Be yourself, no matter what the world says." Every magazine cover, every television appearance, every sold-out concert reinforced a narrative. Cyndi Lauper was fearless, untouchable, unstoppable. But public perception is often a carefully constructed illusion. Fans saw the laughter, the energy, the joy, but they never saw the exhaustion, the doubt, the price of maintaining a persona so vivid, so relentless. Her image was powerful, but it demanded perfection, performance, and the constant upkeep of an identity that sometimes felt like armor against the world. Cyndi's public image was not just a career choice, it was survival. In an industry dominated by polished, cookie-cutter pop stars, she stood out. Every bright jacket, every eccentric accessory, every unconventional hairstyle was a declaration. I refuse to be ordinary. But behind those declarations were nights of solitude, moments of uncertainty, and the quiet questioning of whether she could sustain the persona the world demanded. Even as she became a household name, there were stories hidden beneath the headlines. Stories of the relentless grind of touring, of creative conflicts, of personal sacrifices made to uphold an image the world expected her to maintain. She was, for the public, a living icon, but privately, she often wondered if anyone truly saw her beyond the spectacle. Yet, that public image was also a shield. It allowed her to navigate a world that was often cruel to women in music, especially those who refused to fit into predefined molds. It gave her power, visibility, and influence. It inspired millions to embrace their own uniqueness. It turned Cyndi Lauper into more than a musician. It turned her into a movement, a cultural phenomenon, a living testament to individuality and courage. But the question lingered. Who was Cyndi Lauper when the lights dimmed and the crowd disappeared? The person the world celebrated was a version of her carefully curated to entertain, to inspire, to shine. The real Cyndi, the one shaped by struggle, heartbreak, and quiet resilience, remained largely hidden even from those closest to her. And it is in that space between the public persona and the private self that the true story begins. Behind the laughter, behind the bold colors and iconic voice, lay a woman navigating the complexity of fame, identity, and survival. The public adored the icon, but it was the private battles, the unseen sacrifices, and the moments of vulnerability that would define her journey in ways the world would never expect. This duality, icon and human, spectacle and vulnerable woman, set the stage for everything that followed. It is the lens through which we must now examine Cyndi Lauper's hidden self, the part of her life that no headline, no performance, no public acclaim could fully reveal. Beneath the vibrant wigs, the outrageous costumes, and the electrifying performances, there was a part of Cyndi Lauper that few ever saw, a self wrapped in vulnerability, doubts, and the quiet weight of a life lived under relentless scrutiny. The world celebrated her flamboyance, her energy, her courage. Yet, behind closed doors, she wrestled with insecurities that fame could not erase. Cyndi's hidden self was forged long before the lights of stardom ever reached her. Growing up, she was different, sensitive, observant, acutely aware of life's injustices and its fleeting joys. She learned early that the world would not always embrace her uniqueness, that being too much could be both a blessing and a curse. That understanding lingered, silently shaping the choices she would make as an adult, as an artist, as a woman in an industry that demanded she be everything at once and yet nothing too daring. Even as her public persona soared to unimaginable heights, her private world was a labyrinth of contradictions. There were nights when the applause faded and Cyndi felt the crushing solitude of being misunderstood. Moments when fame felt less like a triumph and more like a cage, forcing her to perform joy while grappling with exhaustion, fear, and lingering self-doubt. Those who knew her closely understood that the bold exterior concealed a woman who questioned, who worried, who longed for genuine connection beyond the fanfare. Her creativity, while dazzling on stage, was both a blessing and a burden. It demanded perfection, endless reinvention, and a constant push against the boundaries of expectation. But it also served as a refuge, a place where she could pour her deepest emotions into lyrics, melodies, and performances. The hidden self spoke in those quiet moments of creation, the lyrics that hinted at heartbreak, the melodies that carried longing, the small choices in composition that only she fully understood. Relationships, too, bore the mark of this hidden self. Friendships strained under the pressures of fame. Romantic connections faltered in the shadows of public life. The woman who seemed unstoppable in front of millions often struggled with the intimacy of being truly seen. Love and trust were complicated territories. She wanted connection, yet feared that the world and its expectations would intrude. Her private life was a delicate dance between desire for closeness and the instinct to protect herself. And yet, it was precisely this hidden self, the part of her that was fragile, reflective, and deeply human, that allowed Cyndi to endure. It gave her empathy, depth, and resilience. It shaped the songs that would touch millions, the performances that would inspire generations, and the legacy that was being quietly built in spaces the public could not witness. To understand Cyndi Lauper fully, one must step beyond the headlines and the stage lights, beyond the wigs and the laughter, and confront the hidden self, the woman who carried pain with grace, doubt with determination, and isolation with courage. This is the side of her that no audience saw, the private life that molded the artist, the fighter, the icon. As we continue, we trace the origins of this hidden self, the roots that gave her strength, the formative experiences that shaped her voice, her spirit, and the woman she would ultimately become. To understand Cyndi Lauper, one must return to the very beginning, to the neighborhood streets of Queens, New York, where a young girl first discovered the power of imagination, the sting of hardship, and the spark of rebellion. Born into a family that struggled with its own shadows, Cyndi's childhood was a mosaic of joy, tension, and resilience. Her father was often absent, her mother a woman of quiet determination, trying to hold together a household that felt perpetually on the edge. Money was scarce, and the sense of security even scarcer. In those early years, Cyndi learned that life was unpredictable, that she could not rely on the world to hand her success, affection, or recognition. She learned to carve her own path, to find solace in creativity, and to lean on her own instincts. From a young age, she felt different from her peers. Where other children conformed, Cyndi embraced eccentricity. She danced in her bedroom, sang in her own unique style, and adorned herself with colors and patterns that reflected her inner world. This individuality was not merely a quirk. It was survival. By standing out, she claimed a space that was entirely her own, a space no one could take away. School was often a challenge. Teachers and classmates sometimes failed to understand her energy and unconventional outlook. But these early experiences of being misunderstood only strengthened her resolve. Cyndi began to understand the duality that would define much of her life, the tension between fitting in and staying true to herself. This duality would become the heartbeat of her artistry, the engine behind the voice that would one day captivate millions. Music was both refuge and revelation. In the small, cluttered apartments of Queens, Cyndi discovered songs that spoke to longing, pain, joy, and freedom. She began to sing, not just to entertain, but to express the complex emotions she could not yet articulate in words. It was here, in the crucible of a challenging upbringing, that the seeds of her extraordinary talent were planted. But talent alone does not shape a star. Cyndi also faced the reality of a world that would not easily accept a woman who refused to be ordinary. Rejection, disappointment, and moments of crushing self-doubt were part of her early journey. Yet each setback carved resilience into her character, teaching her that perseverance and authenticity could outweigh societal expectations. By the time she stepped into the bustling music scene of New York City, Cyndi Lauper was more than a young singer with a remarkable voice. She was a force of nature, forged by struggle, independence, and a refusal to conform. Her origins were not glamorous, but they were formative, giving her both the empathy and the defiance that would define her life and career. It was from these roots, this combination of hardship, individuality, and unyielding spirit, that the spark of her future would ignite. The lessons of her youth would echo through every song, every performance, and every choice she made, setting the stage for a life that would astonish the world while keeping parts of herself hidden from view. Every legend has a moment when the ordinary fractures and something extraordinary bursts through. For Cyndi Lauper, that moment came not in a polished studio, nor on a grand stage, but in the raw, vibrant chaos of New York's underground music scene. The city was alive with energy, rebellion, and creativity. A place where outsiders became visionaries and the overlooked found their voices. Cyndi was exactly that outsider, armed with nothing but her voice, her eccentricity, and an unshakable determination to be heard. She began performing in small clubs, her presence impossible to ignore. The energy she radiated was infectious. Audiences weren't just listening, they were witnessing something rare. A woman unapologetically herself, daring, bold, and uncontainable. It was here, in the dimly lit clubs of Manhattan, that her spark first ignited. She experimented with styles, with genres, with personas, blending punk attitude with pop sensibility in a way no one had seen before. People took notice, not just of the flamboyant exterior, but of the talent that could pierce through the bravado. Every note she sang, every lyric she poured out, hinted at a depth and authenticity that set her apart from anyone else in the scene. But the spark was fragile. The music industry was unforgiving, and for a young woman like Cyndi, doors were often closed before she could knock twice. Rejection was constant. Record executives dismissed her as too different, too quirky, or too unconventional. Each no was a test, a crucible that forced her to refine her voice, sharpen her vision, and double down on her own sense of self. It was also during this period that Cyndi began to understand the power of image as storytelling. Her wild hair, her outrageous outfits, her theatrical performances, they weren't mere gimmicks. They were extensions of her spirit, visual representations of a voice that refused to be silenced. Each bold choice was a declaration. She would not fit into the mold the world had prepared for her. The spark became a flame when she joined forces with collaborators who recognized her genius, people willing to take the risk on someone who defied convention. Together, they forged a sound and image that would soon explode beyond the clubs and into the hearts of millions. And yet, even as doors began to open, the struggle remained. Behind the excitement of early recognition, there were sleepless nights, self-doubt, and the gnawing fear of failure. She had glimpsed the power she could wield, but the cost of sustaining that power was already becoming clear. This was the turning point, the moment when Cyndi Lauper realized that talent alone was not enough. To seize the world's attention, she would need courage, resilience, and a willingness to embrace every piece of herself, even the parts the world might not understand. The spark had ignited. The stage was set. And soon, the world would be forced to notice not just a voice, but a force. A woman who refused to be anything less than extraordinary. The world finally caught up to Cyndi Lauper. What had begun as a spark in the small clubs of Manhattan erupted into a blaze of global recognition. Her debut album, She's So Unusual, was not just a collection of songs. It was a manifesto, a declaration that pop music could be bold, unconventional, and fiercely authentic. Overnight, Cyndi became more than an emerging artist. She became a phenomenon. The energy surrounding her was electric. Every appearance, every interview, every music video drew attention, curiosity, and admiration. Fans saw her as a beacon of individuality, a voice for anyone who had ever felt different or overlooked. The hits poured in. Girls Just Want to Have Fun became an anthem for a generation, a song that captured joy, rebellion, and liberation in a single infectious melody. But fame, as it often does, came with its shadows. Behind the bright lights and the screaming crowds, Cyndi faced pressures she had never imagined. The demands of constant touring, recording, and public appearances tested her physically, emotionally, and mentally. The very persona that had set her apart, the eccentric, fearless, unapologetic Cyndi, was now under scrutiny, dissected, and at times misunderstood by the media and industry executives alike. Even in moments of triumph, the hidden self remained vigilant. Nights after sold-out shows were often spent alone, grappling with exhaustion and the weight of expectation. Friends and collaborators saw glimpses of her vulnerability, the quiet moments when doubt crept in, when the applause felt distant, when the pressure to maintain an image of perfection threatened to overwhelm. Fame had given her a voice, a platform, and a legacy. But it had also demanded sacrifices she could not always reconcile. Her breakthrough was more than commercial success. It was a personal victory. Every note she sang, every lyric she wrote, every bold fashion choice was a testament to the resilience that had carried her from the streets of Queens to the world stage. She had defied expectations, overcome rejection, and claimed her place in a world that often tried to silence those who dared to stand out. Yet, even in victory, there was complexity. Fame magnified everything: the triumphs, the mistakes, the insecurities. Cyndi learned quickly that public adoration could be both uplifting and isolating. The world adored the icon, but the real woman behind the songs was navigating a labyrinth of fame, responsibility, and personal identity. This was the moment when Cyndi Lauper truly became a star. But it was also the moment when the first real tests of that stardom began, tests that would challenge her strength, her relationships, and the very core of who she was. The breakthrough had arrived, but it was only the beginning of a journey that would demand everything she had and more. With the world at her feet, Cyndi Lauper had claimed her crown. She was no longer just an emerging artist. She was a global icon, a symbol of individuality, rebellion, and the power of unapologetic authenticity. The hits kept coming, the tours grew larger, and every public appearance reinforced her place at the pinnacle of pop culture. Cyndi's crown was not a fragile accessory. It was earned. Every struggle, every rejection, every night of doubt had been a step toward this moment. The flamboyant outfits, the colorful hair, the larger-than-life persona, all became inseparable from the music, inseparable from the woman herself. Fans didn't just admire her, they celebrated her as a living legend, someone who dared to defy expectations and redefine what it meant to be a female artist in a male-dominated industry. But a crown comes with weight. Behind the adoration and the spotlight was a reality few could see: relentless pressure to perform, to innovate, to stay relevant. Every decision was scrutinized. Every song, every style choice, every public comment carried consequences. The crown brought visibility and power, but it also amplified every doubt, every fear, every personal struggle she had worked so hard to navigate. Even at the height of fame, Cyndi remained intensely private about her vulnerabilities. She celebrated individuality publicly, but protected her inner life fiercely. Friends and collaborators understood that beneath the dazzling stage persona was a woman who had known struggle intimately and had fought to preserve her sense of self amidst a whirlwind of external expectations. The crown she wore was both triumph and armor, a symbol of success, and a shield against the scrutiny that fame inevitably brings. Her influence extended beyond music. Cyndi became a trailblazer for causes she believed in, an advocate for human rights, LGBTQ+ equality, and artists' rights. The crown was not just a symbol of artistic dominance, it was a platform. She used it to speak, to act, and to empower others, proving that true power lies not only in fame, but in courage and conviction. Yet, with the glory came isolation. The higher she rose, the more the world expected her to remain flawless, untouchable, and perpetually vibrant. The crown, while radiant, was heavy, pressing down on moments of personal vulnerability, private loss, and the simple human need to just be herself without the gaze of millions. This was the paradox of her pinnacle. Cyndi Lauper had everything she had ever dreamed of: fame, recognition, influence, but the cost was profound. The crown illuminated her brilliance, but also cast shadows she could not fully escape. It was a testament to her resilience, a reminder of the battles she had fought, and a foreshadowing of the challenges that lay ahead. The crown shone brightly for all to see, but only Cyndi knew the strength required to hold it, the sacrifices it demanded, and the quiet moments when the weight threatened to overwhelm even the fiercest spirit. Every crown carries a cost. For Cyndi Lauper, the glittering lights and roaring applause came at a profound personal price. Fame brought visibility, influence, and artistic freedom, but it also demanded sacrifices that few could understand, and burdens that often went unseen. The first price was time. Tours, recordings, and public appearances consumed her days and nights. The relentless schedule left little space for rest, reflection, or the quiet intimacy of personal life. Friendships strained under the weight of constant travel. Relationships faltered as the demands of fame took precedence over the desire for closeness. Cyndi often found herself alone, surrounded by crowds but distanced from the very connections that sustain the human heart. The second price was emotional. Living in a constant spotlight magnified every misstep, every insecurity, every vulnerability. What the public saw as confidence and exuberance often masked exhaustion, doubt, and quiet despair. The pressure to maintain her iconic image, a voice of joy and individuality, left little room for private grief or struggle. Behind the laughter and the flamboyant persona was a woman grappling with the relentless tension between her public identity and her private self. The third price was physical. Touring extensively, performing at peak energy night after night, and living under the stress of public scrutiny took a toll on her body. Behind every vibrant performance was discipline, pain, and moments of fatigue she rarely admitted. The very brilliance that captivated millions demanded a level of endurance few could comprehend. And then there was the cost of compromise. Cyndi had to navigate an industry that often sought to pigeonhole her, to tame her originality, to dilute her voice to fit commercial formulas. She faced difficult choices, stay true to herself, or conform for easier success. Every decision carried weight, and every compromise, however small, chipped at the freedom she so fiercely valued. Yet perhaps the heaviest price was loneliness. Fame can be isolating. Even surrounded by fans, collaborators, and opportunities, Cyndi often felt the quiet ache of being misunderstood. The world adored the icon, but the real woman behind the songs, the woman shaped by struggle, perseverance, and vulnerability, was rarely fully seen. The cost of being exceptional was to bear much of life's burden alone. And still, Cyndi endured. She bore the price with resilience, channeling it into her art, her advocacy, and her identity. Each song became an expression of the sacrifices made, each performance a testament to the strength required to sustain a life lived boldly. The price was steep, but it forged her legacy, and it reminded the world that behind every icon lies a deeply human story. The crown gleamed, but the shadows lingered. The world celebrated the triumphs and the energy, but only Cyndi knew the full measure of what it took to achieve them. The pain endured, the relationships tested, and the solitude that often accompanied greatness. This is the hidden truth behind the glamour. Every moment of fame carried a cost, and every song, every performance, every image was both a gift to the world and a reminder of the personal sacrifices that made it possible. Even the brightest stars face moments when the universe reminds them that fame is fragile and success fleeting. For Cyndi Lauper, the fall was not dramatic in the sense of scandal or public disgrace. It was quieter, subtler, yet no less profound. It came in the form of changing times, shifting industry tides, and the personal toll of living under constant scrutiny. As the 1980s gave way to a new decade, the music industry evolved. Trends shifted, radio airplay changed, and the attention that once celebrated her individuality began to focus elsewhere. Cyndi was no longer the only voice of rebellion, the singular symbol of eccentricity and joy. Competition intensified, and the market demanded reinvention. Reinvention that sometimes clashed with the authenticity she had fought so hard to preserve. Alongside professional pressures, personal challenges emerged. Relationships strained, both romantic and professional, as the burden of fame and relentless touring took its toll. The woman who had thrived on independence now faced the isolation that often accompanies greatness. She questioned choices, doubted her path, and confronted the reality that her private self could be overshadowed by the public persona she had created. Criticism, too, became sharper. Media scrutiny that had once been admiring turned occasionally judgmental. Every eccentric outfit, every unconventional decision was dissected. The world adored her when she thrilled them, but it could also be unforgiving when expectations were unmet. The fall was not a single event. It was the accumulation of subtle pressures, of moments when even an icon could feel the ground shift beneath her feet. Yet Cyndi's fall was also deeply human. She experienced frustration, loneliness, and the quiet ache of feeling misunderstood. There were nights when the applause faded, leaving her to confront her own vulnerabilities. The songs that once seemed effortless now carried the weight of experience, reflection, and the realization that fame does not shield one from the trials of life. And still, even in these moments, Cyndi displayed resilience. She faced the challenges of the industry, the judgment of the public, and the shadows of personal doubt, with a tenacity that had defined her from the start. The fall was not permanent. It was a reminder of the impermanence of external success, the importance of inner strength, and the need to remain true to oneself amidst change. This chapter of her life is a testament to the truth behind stardom. The higher the rise, the more precarious the balance. Yet even in struggle, Cyndi Lauper's spirit remained unbroken. The fall was not the end. It was a turning point, preparing her for reinvention, reflection, and a return that would redefine her legacy in ways the world had yet to fully grasp. After the heights of fame and the subtle crash of public expectation, there comes a moment every icon must face: silence. For Cyndi Lauper, it was a period of introspection, withdrawal, and quiet reflection. A time when the applause faded and the world's gaze shifted elsewhere. The silence was not emptiness. It was a space to confront herself, to reckon with the life she had built, the choices she had made, and the cost of her relentless pursuit of success. Away from the spotlight, away from the constant demands of performance, Cyndi faced the private truth that fame had often masked: loneliness, unresolved grief, and the lingering shadows of sacrifices made for the sake of her art. During these years, she turned inward. She explored music not for commercial success, but for expression. Lyrics were no longer crafted to appeal to the masses. They were intimate, honest, and raw. She revisited old songs, reinterpreted her past experiences, and allowed herself to confront pain that had long been set aside behind her public persona. This period of silence was also a time of healing. Relationships mended slowly, bonds deepened, and Cyndi rediscovered her own voice outside the pressures of industry expectations. She learned that true artistry did not always demand constant visibility, that sometimes stepping back was necessary to reclaim authenticity, to understand the self that had been hidden beneath fame's relentless glare. Yet even in silence, the world did not forget her. Though the charts and the headlines moved on, her influence remained quietly profound. She inspired younger artists, championed causes she believed in, and reminded fans that greatness is not always measured by immediate recognition. It is measured by resilience, integrity, and the courage to endure. The silence, paradoxically, became a stage. It was a time when Cyndi could reflect on the woman she had been, the battles she had fought, and the person she aspired to become. It was a moment of preparation, of gathering strength, of redefining her own narrative away from the expectations of others. And as the world waited, perhaps unaware, Cyndi Lauper was quietly plotting her return. Not for applause, not for validation, but for herself. The silence was a testament to endurance, introspection, and the enduring spirit that had carried her through decades of triumphs, heartbreaks, and transformation. This was the calm before the resurgence, the stillness that precedes the storm of reinvention. The silence was necessary, for it allowed the hidden self to re-emerge stronger, wiser, and more authentic than ever. After years of reflection, introspection, and quiet preparation, Cyndi Lauper emerged once more, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Her return was not just a comeback to the charts or stages, it was a reclamation of self, a reaffirmation of the woman she had always been beneath the fame and spectacle. The world welcomed her with admiration and curiosity, but this time, Cyndi was different. She no longer sought validation from the spotlight alone. Her performances were infused with authenticity, her lyrics resonated with the depth of experience, and every note carried the lessons of decades lived fully, sometimes painfully, but always courageously. Her artistry evolved. She embraced new sounds, explored collaborations across generations, and revisited classics with fresh perspective. Each project became a dialogue between her past and present, a celebration of resilience, individuality, and the enduring power of creative expression. Fans, old and new, felt the sincerity in every performance, the truth behind every song. But the return was more than music. Cyndi used her voice to advocate for causes close to her heart. She championed LGBTQ+ rights, women's empowerment, and countless charitable initiatives, proving that influence is most meaningful when it extends beyond personal acclaim. The crown she once wore for fame was now a platform for impact, a tool for change, a beacon for those who felt unseen. Even in her resurgence, Cyndi never forgot the price she had paid. She acknowledged the loneliness, the doubts, and the sacrifices of her earlier years. She understood that true strength lies not in ignoring vulnerability, but in embracing it. Her return was a testament to the power of perseverance, authenticity, and the courage to remain true to oneself amidst the ever-shifting tides of fame. Audiences saw a woman who could still light up a stage, command a crowd, and evoke emotion with every note. But behind the applause was a deeper narrative. Cyndi Lauper's return was not simply about reclaiming fame. It was about reclaiming her story, her voice, and her place in the world on her own terms. And in doing so, she inspired countless others to rise again after setbacks, to embrace their uniqueness, and to recognize that life's most profound returns are measured not by public acclaim, but by the resilience and courage that define the human spirit. Cyndi Lauper's resurgence proved a simple truth. Even after silence, even after challenges, greatness endures when it is rooted in authenticity, perseverance, and heart. Cyndi Lauper's journey is more than a story of fame, music, or colorful style. It is a testament to resilience, individuality, and the enduring human spirit. Decades after her first steps into New York's underground music scene, her influence reverberates across generations, inspiring artists, fans, and anyone who has ever felt different, overlooked, or underestimated. Her legacy is multifaceted. She redefined what it meant to be a female artist in pop music, fearless, unapologetic, and wholly authentic. She championed creativity over conformity, showing the world that individuality is not just acceptable, but powerful. She gave voice to the misfits, the outsiders, the dreamers who saw themselves reflected in her eccentricity and courage. Beyond music, Cyndi's advocacy amplified her impact. Her unwavering support for LGBTQ+ rights, women's empowerment, and charitable causes demonstrated that true influence is measured not only by visibility, but by compassion and action. She proved that fame carries responsibility, and that responsibility can be wielded to change lives. But perhaps her greatest legacy is personal. The proof that resilience can overcome adversity, that authenticity can survive scrutiny, and that even after heartbreak, isolation, or silence, it is possible to return to one's fullest self. Her life embodies the paradox of stardom. The triumphs are dazzling, but the lessons learned through struggle are what endure. Cyndi Lauper leaves behind more than songs or accolades. She leaves behind a blueprint for courage, a reminder that vulnerability is not weakness, and that the human heart can endure, create, and inspire across decades. Every note she sang, every bold choice she made, every life she touched contributes to a legacy that is both deeply personal and universally resonant. Her story reminds us that behind every icon is a human being, flawed, resilient, and capable of extraordinary courage. And while the world may remember the music, the colors, and the energy, the real legacy lies in the quiet strength, the unwavering authenticity, and the inspiration that continues to ripple through generations. Cyndi Lauper's life is a testament to the truth that greatness is not defined by the spotlight alone, but by the struggles, sacrifices, and resilience that make brilliance possible. She is more than a legend. She is a symbol of enduring courage, individuality, and the power of being unapologetically oneself. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Talksberry and comment. Remember, greatness isn't in the spotlight, but in the struggle behind it.